Alright, we're back. So, today we're doing Noxus, and fair warning, I did not play too much with Noxus. I didn't play too much with Noxus, and I didn't play too much with the Shadow Isles. I did play some, and I played against both of them a lot, but for these next two videos, take everything with a grain of salt. My impression on cards may be vastly different than the other four regions who I had played uh, way more. So without further ado, we're going to jump right in. Blade's Edge, one of the cards I did play with. It's a 1 mana, deal 1 to anything. Pretty good. I mean, it's not great. It's basically half of a Mystic Shot. But if you remember, Mystic Shot is great. So this card is pretty good. Draven's biggest fan. I saw a lot of people play this in their Draven's deck to guarantee to move Draven to the top of their deck. It's that other search card that I mentioned when doing the Freljord video. So, moving Draven to the top of your deck is obviously not as good as just drawing Draven. And I don't think you necessarily need this card in a Draven deck, but it's definitely nice to have. I don't think guaranteeing Draven at the very beginning of the game is like auto winning or anything like that. It's a nice card for sure if you want to have a guaranteed way to get Draven soon. This is a pretty good card. Guile. I played with this in a Yasuo deck, and the fact that it's slow makes it very underwhelming for me, but it's definitely not bad. It's not bad, but it's not as good as you would think. If this was a fast or burst spell, I could see it being really, really, really annoying. But the fact that it's slow and you can't cast it during any kind of battle or defending kind of balances it out. It's an okay card. Precious Pet. Now this card's pretty good. When I'm summoned, stun the next enemy unit this round. Summon this round, sorry. So, when you play this, say you're attacking round 1. Very first round, it's your turn to attack. If you play this, and your opponent plays a Sithri of Cloudfield, that we went over in the Demacian video, it's stunned. It just can't block this. This is guaranteed a free attack. And that stun gives you a stun/recall proc for a Yasuo and various other cards that work around with stun. So this card's just all around great. There's really no downside to this card. It's just really good. Affectionate Poro. It's good. Pretty much only good with the fluffed up Poros that we went over last video from the Freljord. But even if you just played the 1/1 Challenger, maybe you could pick something off with 1 health, but I personally don't see this being run at all if you're just playing a non-Poro deck. Legion Rearguard. A lot of people played this in their aggro decks. It's a 1 mana 3/2, so obviously the stats are very good. It can't block, which is its downside, but if you're playing in a super aggressive deck, your goal is to not be blocking. Your goal is to be hitting the Nexus as much as possible, and this gets that job done. This card is very, very good, but you have to be aware if you're playing an aggro deck that's going to swarm, not really swarm, but beat down your opponent, be prepared to take some damage in return. The Elixir of Wrath. Brought this up last video. This card's very good. Straight up giving your ally +3 power, even if it's just going to hit the Nexus, not trade or anything like that, is powerful. You could count this if you're ahead and they can't block something, a free 3 damage for 1 mana to the enemy Nexus, and that is super, super good. You can use this pseudo-defensively is if someone's blocking one of your units and you can't trade it off, you can Elixir of Wrath and force the trade. The fact that it's 1 mana and gives +3 is just really, really good. This is what I brought up when I brought up the Elixir of Iron from last video. I wish the Elixir of Iron was +3 health so it could match the power levels relatively. You know, Elixir of Wrath would give +3 power, and Elixir of Iron would give +3 health, but Elixir of Iron only gives +2 health. So I think this card's better. This card's great. Legion Saboteur. 1 mana 2/1. Attack, deal 1 to the enemy Nexus. This is a good chip damage card. A lot of people also played this card. You play it on turn 1, you attack. Instead of doing the 2 damage you would normally do, you're guaranteed at least 1. Even if it gets blocked, you're guaranteed at least 1 to the Nexus because of the attack word in the skill effect name, I guess that would be. It's like Lux's Final Spark. Before they even put up blockers, and before you even attack, as long as you set this Legion Saboteur up to attack and then past it, it will do 1 damage to the Nexus. So that is always just free damage for 1 mana. It's pretty good. Crimson Disciple. When I survive damage, deal 2 to the enemy Nexus. I saw like a few people play the Vladimir decks. I think this card's pretty decent. It's not super good. It's not bad. A 2 mana 2/3 is nothing to be ashamed about. When I survive damage, deal 2 to the enemy Nexus. So the cards that... There's lots of self-damaging cards. Or damage an ally, give a buff, or anything like that. We'll see a few of those as we go on. And this card is pretty good in combination with those cards. So this card definitely has its place, and it does what it needs to do. Trefarian Glory Seeker. 2 mana, 5 attack. Challenger. Yes, it can't block, but if you're blocking, if you were going to block with this, it's going to die anyways. 2 mana, 5 attack is absurd. This card is super good. It's pretty much guaranteed. If you play this on turn 2, you're pretty much almost guaranteed, unless they have some kind of spell removal or some massive buff, to trade something off with this if you wanted. It's very good. Very, very good. It's very annoying when it's played against you because you're thinking, okay, well, what I just played is dead next turn. Because when they get to attack, this is going to challenge it. And it doesn't have to challenge it. You can say, yeah, you can keep your minion. If you're the one playing this, yeah, you keep your minion. I'm not going to challenge anything. If you want to block this, go for it. If not, I will deal you 5 to the Nexus. So, very good card. Very, very good card. Transfusion. 2 mana burst. Deal 1 to an ally, give another ally +2/+2. I think it's pretty good, but I'm not sure if you can deal 1 to an ally and give that same ally +2/+2. If so, card's super good. If not, I also kind of don't like the fact that it's this round, but for 2 mana, that's reasonable. I understand. But you have to have at least 2 minions to even play this card, from what I can see. I never saw anyone really play the card. Maybe once or twice, but, you know, it fades in the memory. I think this card's okay. It's okay. At best, probably. Arena Battlecaster. So I think this card's very interesting. It's a 2 mana 2/1, so the stats, you know, pretty much everything either in Noxus has high stats or low stats and a powerful effect. This is low stats, powerful effect. Attack, give other battling allies +1 attack this round. So this is like a support card that affects your whole team, basically, is what this is. Giving even if you have 2 allies on your field, this is the 2 mana 2/1 with a pseudo +2 because you're giving +2 to allies. So this card's pretty good. Most of the things in Noxus can just get picked off by Mystic Shots, Drains, any kind of removal, because everything is either really weak or has big stats and can't block. But yeah, this card's pretty good. House Spider. I'm pretty sure this card is in a default deck that you get in the preview patch. I'm not sure if you will still get that deck in the next preview patch, but this is a 2 mana 2/2. When I'm summoned, summon a Spiderling, and the Spiderling is a 1 mana 1/1. The important fact is that they're spiders, so they work with Elise, who we will go over next video. But 2 mana for 3/3 of stats and on 2 bodies, that's pretty good. Death Lotus. This is Caterina's spell. Deal 1 to all battling units. I don't think it's that good. Deal 1. If it was deal 1 to all enemy battling units, I might pick it up. But because it's all battling units, you're going to damage your own stuff. And with the cards we already went over, most of them have 1 attack or 1 health. So, I don't think it's worth playing. You're going to get one of these if you're running multiple Caterinas in your deck, because if you play a champion, say I played Caterina, but I had another Caterina in hand, you can't play 2 Caterinas. So that Caterina in hand, while the first Caterina is on the field, will become Death Lotus. You probably don't want to play it unless you have to, because if the first Caterina dies, you end up with a second Caterina, which is super nice. But I don't think this card's that good. Brothers Bond. 2 mana burst. Grant 2 allies +2 attack. Very good. Very, very offensive. You'll see that theme along with everything here in Noxus. Aggression. So this is a I'm going to hit you with +4 for 2 mana, or 2 of my things are trading over 2 of yours. So very good. Very, very solid. There's really no downside to this. Pick one up. Crimson Aristocrat. Saw a lot of people in the Discord showing this picture. It's a very nice picture. Crimson Aristocrat. Play, deal 1 to an ally, grant it +2/+0 permanently. It's not this round, it's permanently. This is Abusive Sergeant from Hearthstone, if any of you have played that. So it's Abusive Sergeant with a better stat line. Dealing 1 to an ally can be beneficial. From the cards we went over in the Freljord, I'll put a few up on screen. This would work fantastically. This is the synergy I was talking about in the video yesterday. Dealing 1 to an ally may sound bad up front, but dealing 1 to an ally can be very, very beneficial. Say we bring up the 0/3 1 mana card from the Freljord we brought up yesterday, who I will put on screen. When that takes damage, it gets +3 attack and survive, or when it takes and survives damage, it gets +3 attack. Because you dealt it damage yourself, it still happens. It still gets +3 attack, but it gets another +2. So it will be a 1 mana 5/2, which is phenomenal. This card's very good in the self-hurting decks. Lesion Grenadier, or Grenadier. 2 mana 3/1, good. Last breath, deal 2 to the enemy Nexus. So you're 99% of the time, if this dies, you're guaranteed 2 damage to the Nexus. The only obliterate card I can think of is the She Who Wanders. And if this is on the field by the time She Who Wanders comes down, something's going wrong. So, very good card. It's guaranteed damage. It's going to try to swing to face for 3 every time. Straight up aggression. Lesion Drummer. So I asked in the Discord what cards people thought were good. Because I personally had not played very much Noxus, so I wanted people's insights so I could make a better video. Someone said Lesion Drummer was low-key slept on. So, a 2-mana 3/2, good stats. Support, give my supported ally quick attack. So, in a full-out aggression deck, if you give one of your allies quick attack, and quick attack for reminder, if you're attacking, quick attack makes that unit deal damage before it gets hit back. So instead of both hitting each other at the same time, your unit will hit first, and if it kills it, that unit with quick attack will not take damage back. So, very good. Someone said this was slept on. I don't fully know, but it does seem like it could work very, very well in a aggressive deck. Trefarian Hopeful. When I'm summoned, grant me +2 if you have another Noxious ally. So if you play a 1-mana Noxious card on turn 1, then you play this Trefarian Hopeful on turn 2. This is a 5/2 for 2 mana with no downside. Even if you don't get the +2, it's a 2-mana 3/2 with no downside. A fantastic card. Crimson Curator. When I survive damage, create a random Crimson unit in your hand. I have no clue what a Crimson unit is. I'll be honest. 3-mana 3/2, a little below average stats. And this has to survive damage, and it only has 2 health. So you pretty much only get one use of it. I don't know how strong Crimson units are, but this does not seem very good. Legion Marauder. Attack, grant allied Legion Marauders everywhere, +1/+1. It's a 3-mana 3/2. So after, or not even after you attack. If you attack before they even put up blockers, before it swings, this and all other Legion Marauders get +1/+1. So this becomes a 3-mana 4/3, technically, if you're attacking. Beforehand, it's still going to be a 3/2. So with 3 of these in your deck, I could see it being pretty useful. I don't see it being a must-take or super strong, but it does seem very, very good. It's just solid. I think if you're going for a Legion Marauderish type deck, I bet you could get some wild, wacky stuff going on with counterfeit copies, which we went over with our Piltover and Zon video. It's alright. It's pretty good. Might. 3-mana burst. Give an ally +3 and Overwhelm this round. Pretty good. Overwhelm in general is one of the stronger keywords, in my opinion. Overwhelm, when you damage an enemy, you will do the difference between the enemy's health and your power as damage to the Nexus. So if they have a 2 health remaining enemy, if there's a 2 health remaining enemy and you have a 5/5 with Overwhelm and you give it +3 attack, it's going to do 6 damage to the Nexus just by attacking the 2 health enemy. So very strong. Overwhelm does not work on block. So if you're blocking and you overkill something while you're blocking, it doesn't work. But still very, very strong in an aggressive-oriented region. Vision, 3-mana burst. When cast or discarded, grant allies +1. Not for this round. Grant allies +1 forever. I saw people playing this in a Draven deck, because when you cast Draven Spinning Axes, you must discard a card. I don't think it's that good, but it's not bad. Like if you're playing a Draven deck and you have nothing else that you want to play, if you don't want to play the full discard kind of Draven style with Jinx, then discard could probably be cut. But if you're playing that kind of deck, you throw this one in, all of your allies get +1 attack, which is super nice. Arena Bookie. 3 mana, 2/1. Start of round, discard your lowest cost card to draw 1. I don't think it's good. It goes even. Yes, it changes your hand, but sometimes the lowest cost card in your hand will be the most important. So I don't think this card's good. If this was choose one card to discard, then draw 1, yeah, it'd be pretty good. But without that, this card's just not fitting well with me. It's not very good. Arachnoid Sentry, 3 mana, 3/2. Play, stun an enemy. Very good. Just stunning an enemy is good enough to put this in some of your decks. Yasuo decks specifically, you just freely stun an enemy, and we've went over Yasuo in the previous video. But when you stun an enemy while Yasuo is on the field, it will either do 2 damage to it, or if he is leveled up, he will just strike it. And when he's leveled up, he has 5 power. So very good in specific decks, and even just as a 3-drop, stunning an enemy is always kind of useful. So very good. Draven. A lot of people played Draven, and a lot of people lost when they played Draven, at least against me, or from what I saw. So when you play or strike, create a spinning axe in hand. And a spinning axe is the 2-play, discard 1, give an ally +1 this round. So you discard a card, you give something +1 attack for free. Draven does have quick attack, so that helps the spinning axe a lot. But the fact that you're trying to discard pretty much as possible every time you get a spinning axe, it works well with Jinx, for sure, because Jinx wants her hand to be empty. But I feel like because Noxus has so little defensive tools, that if your Draven gets targeted and it's going to go down, and you just emptied your hand, basically, you're going to get destroyed, which is what happened in most of the games that I played. When Draven levels up, he gets Overwhelm, and he still has quick attack. So, I mean, the leveled up Draven only gets +1/+1 and Overwhelm, which is not bad, don't get me wrong. He still has quick attack. But I don't think he's as good as people think he is. Specifically because Noxus is so low in the defensive tool section. With his spell, Draven's Whirling Death, or just normal Whirling Death, he becomes a lot better. But I don't think he's as good as people think he is, but he's definitely powerful. Noxian Guillotine. Alright, this card's very good. Very, very good. Paired with the Shadow Isles Drain 1 from all enemy units card, this card gets disgusting. Kill a damaged unit. Doesn't matter how strong it is. It can just be hurt, and it will kill it for 3 mana. You can cast this again this round. So, this is Darius's ult from League of Legends in a card form. You just start popping off, just chopping the heads off of cards that are weakened. It's very strong. It's very, very good removal. More often than not, because you're playing such an aggressive region, they had to put blockers up to block some of your early game threats. So they should be weakened or have taken damage. So Noxian Guillotine, solid. Very, very good in my book. Caterina. I think Caterina's stronger than people give her credit for. She's a 3 mana 3/2, right? Stats could be a little better. She has quick attack. That's nice. When I've struck, then recall me. So this is a little confusing. It says I've struck, then recall me is the level up condition. So you might think that I need to attack and then use a recall spell or something of the other on Caterina, but no. She attacks with her quick attack, and then she just goes back to your hand automatically and levels up. You may think, wow, I just played 3 mana to attack, and then I have to play it again. But when she's leveled up, she gets +1/+1, and then when she gets played, you ready your attack. This is a Relentless Pursuit in a card for 4 mana. Very, very, very surprising to a lot of people. They do not expect people to have extra attacks during their normal attack turn. You will catch people off guard for sure. And we went over her Death Lotus. I think it's really bad, but Caterina herself, super good. If you attack, you play Caterina, you attack, she comes back to your hand, you play her again, you get another attack, you attack. It gets a little absurd. You can get 3, 4 attacks in one turn. I think maximum is of 4 attacks in one turn with double Caterina Relentless Pursuit. So if you're already threatening on board and you do this, it's disgusting. So I think Caterina's a little bit slept on. Not very many people played her, but she's very, very good when you need this flat-out aggression and extra attacks. Blood for Blood. 3 mana fast spell. Deal 1 to an allied follower. If it survives, create a copy of it in hand. I don't think it's that good. It could just be hidden OP. This card I feel like has a lot of variance because you can use it on any follower. You can't use it on a champion. It doesn't say use it on a unit. It says on a follower. So dealing 1 could be beneficial, as we've went over. If it survives, create a copy of it in hand. So creating copies in hand is nice, but for 3 mana, not progressing the board, really. I guess you could be progressing the board if you damage something that gets buffed when it survives, but I think there's better cards. Reckless Trifarian. 3 mana 5/4. I don't need to tell you if those are good stats. Those are good stats. Can't block. Very similar to the 1 mana Legion Rearguard, who is right here, who we went over at the beginning. 1 mana 3/2. Very good stats, just can't block. This is a 3 mana 5/4. Very good stats, can't block. So this is the big brother of Legion Rearguard. Still very good. Culling Strike. Great. Kill a unit with 3 or less power instantly. It can be denied, but for 3 mana, killing something with 3 power, I'll take that. If they play a Fiora, just kills the Fiora. They play an Ezreal, died. Teemo, died. Anything with 3 or less power, straight dead. No matter if it has elusive or anything like that. A Braum, dead. A lot of things die to this card. I'm pretty sure, from what I've heard, do not quote me on this, I never checked or did the math, but 70% of units have less than 3 health. So I would assume that 50% have less than 3 power, from my personal experience. So very good. Very, very good. This is a great, great card. Whirling Death. So when I read this, I thought it was basically a single combat from Demacia just during battle. That is not how it works. It's a 3 mana fast spell. A battling ally strikes a battling enemy, right? You may think, okay, they fight each other. No, your battling ally just hits an enemy. The enemy does not get a chance to hit back. So this is a straight do damage from one of your attacking allies to another blocking enemy for free. Or not for free, but for 3 mana. I heard this card was very, very underrated, and I can see that once it was explained to me. I think this card's very good. Definitely one of the better cards. Shiraza the Blade, or Shiraza the Blade. 4 mana 3/3. Okay, the stats are okay. I deal double damage to the Nexus. You see this get played, it's probably block fodder. If you have anything to block, you could treat this as a 6 power thing in your mind. If they play this, you are going to want to block this or you're taking 6 to the face, which is never good. If you give this Overwhelm, I would like to see the interactions between that. If you gave this the +3 Overwhelm card, I could see this being disgusting. Even if you block this, it's still going to run on through and deal double the Overwhelm damage. So I think this card has definite potential, and just in its base form, I don't think it's that great. It's begging to be blocked. If your enemy can't block anyways, they're dead. So yeah, I think it's okay without any buffs or Overwhelm. But if you start buffing this and give it Overwhelm, it could be potentially disgusting. Basilisk Rider. 4 mana 4/2. Allegiance grant me +2/+2 Overwhelm. Oh, very good. Allegiance, as we've went over, is a mechanic where you check the top card of your deck, and if it's the same region as the card you played, which is Noxus in this case, the effect would happen. So if you're playing Allegiance cards, you want mainly a majority of the cards of the Allegiance card. So if you're playing a Noxus deck, maybe 30 Noxus cards, 10 of another region to kind of help guarantee this effect. Without this effect, this card's terrible. A 4 mana 4/2 with nothing is bad. But a 4 mana 6/4 with Overwhelm, that's pretty good. So this card has definite variance depending on whether you get the Allegiance or not. But with the Allegiance, it's very strong. Legion Veteran. 4 mana 4/5. Great stats. When another ally survives damage, grant it +1/+0. This is an Ulnuk that we went over last video with a good effect. An Ulnuk was pretty good. It was average. This card's good. Needless to say, a 4 mana 4/5 is good stats. When it has a positive effect, it makes it even better. So there's really no downside to this at all. It's a super great card. Definitely pick this up if you're doing the self-hurt deck. Crimson Awakener. 4 mana 5/5. Good stats. Very good stats. When I'm summoned, deal 1 to all other allies. Downside. Or upside, depending on what deck you're playing. But if you're not playing the self-hurt deck, definite downside. Still very strong stats for a 4 mana 5/5. If you're playing the deck that self-damages and buffs your stuff if they survived, pretty good. Also works surprisingly well with Braum, all these self-damage hurt cards, because when Braum survives damage, he gets progress towards his level up, or summons a Poro. So, very good. Crowd favorite. A lot of people played this card. I don't think it's as good as people think. At best, it's a 4 mana 7/7, which is good, don't get me wrong. But that's the best case scenario. This is a win more card, in my opinion. If you have 5 units on the field and you play this, you're probably not behind. Okay? Vaguely speaking, if you have 5 units ready to go, you're not behind. It has Overwhelm, which is great. Even a 4 mana, if you have 3 units, 4 mana 5/5 with Overwhelm, I'd play it. But still, without anything, if you draw this in the late game and you're behind, because if you make it to the late game and with a Noxious deck, odds are you're not doing too hot. A 4 mana 2/2 Overwhelm is complete garbage. So, big variance again. But I don't think it's as good as people think it is. Trefarian Assessor. 4 mana 4/3. Okay. Seen better. Play. Draw 1 for each 5+ power ally you have. Potentially very, very strong. If this draws one card, I'll be happy. It kind of pays itself off from the hand, right? You play one, you get one. If it draws two, it's great. More than that, amazing, superb. But base, you have to have +5 power ally, first of all, which could be an issue, but more often than not, probably not. So, pretty solid, pretty solid. Lots of variance on these cards. So, yeah, definitely okay. Trefarian Shieldbreaker, 5 mana, 6/5, great stats. Fearsome, great effect. No downside. Amazing card. Fearsome makes it only so that the enemy can block this card with 3 or more power units. So if they have a bunch of little 2/2s or 1/1s, this ain't getting blocked. It's hitting 6 to the face. So very good card. I never really saw anyone run it, but definitely super good. Decisive Maneuver. I saw a few people play this. It's all right. I don't think it's super good. It's definitely good, but it's all right in relative terms. 5 mana, fast spell, stun an enemy. So it's guile but fast. Okay, that's a plus. Give all allies +2 attack this round. More aggression, right? So if you're pushing for the wind and they only have one blocker, you say, no, I'm going to stun that, and I'm giving everything +2 this round. Could be game winning, right? But it's an investment. If you're using this and you're not pushing for the win, you're in trouble. Which I think is the main downside to Noxus. The defensive options are limited. So, but still a very, very good card. Again, stun mechanics works well with Yasuo. So, yeah, super solid. But not as good as people think it is, in my opinion. Intimidating Roar. This card's fantastic. This card stuns all enemies with 4 or less power. On turn 5, most enemies will not have 4 or higher than 4 power. If you play this on turn 5 and you are the aggressor, which you're playing Noxus, you kind of should be, you basically stunned everything they have and push in for the attack. This card is potentially just game winning in itself, especially with Yasuo. Stunning potentially 6 enemies in one spell is an instant level up. And if your Yasuo is already leveled up, this is a 5 mana deal 5 to all enemies with 4 or less power. Fantastic. This card's phenomenal. Arachnoid Host. 5 mana 5/3. Okay, stats. When I'm summoned, grant other spider allies +2/+0. Pretty good. It's played a decent amount with Elise and the spider cards, but I think it's awkward because you can buff your little spiders as much as you want for their attack, but they all still, mostly all, still have one health. So they're just going to get destroyed no matter how much attack they have. Yes, if you have powered up Elise, all your spiders get Challenger, which we'll go over tomorrow. But, I think this card's a little overrated, in my opinion. Kato the Arm. 5 mana 5/3. Again, stats. Support. Give my supported ally +3 and Overwhelm. Oh, very good. Every time this card attacks, the right side unit of this card gets +3 attack and Overwhelm. That's fantastic. Overwhelm might be the strongest keyword in the game, in my opinion. So, super oppressive and strong. Having 5 attack in itself is no joke. So, mainly, if this was just give Overwhelm, I'd still think it's pretty good. And it gives +3 attack. So, phenomenal card. Decimate. This card will come into play later as well, so be sure to remember. 5 mana, slow spell, deal 4 to the enemy Nexus. It's not very good. For 5 mana, you can get more value than dealing 4 to the enemy. Yes, it's not bad. You cast 5 of these, you technically win the game if they have no healing, right? But playing 5 of these is very, very slow. So it's not bad. It's just not good, if that makes sense. Vladimir. All right, so there's a few things about Vladimir. Vladimir is the self-damaging champion kind of thing. Attack for each other attacking ally, deal 1 to it, and then deal 1 to the enemy Nexus. So if you have 2 allies and you play Vladimir and you attack, Vladimir will damage your allies each for 1. And because you have 2 allies, it will deal 2 to the enemy Nexus. Alright. He levels up when you've had 6 allies survive damage. And when he levels up, he gains regeneration and has the same effect. I don't think Vladimir's super good. Yes, he works well with the self-damaging buffing kind of deck, but he has good stats, don't get me wrong. 5 mana 5/5, better than most. 5 mana 6/6, you know, super good. But yeah, I don't know. I think this is too much of a drawback for a little bit of damage. Dealing everything to your side. If you're playing a self-damage deck, not everything is going to be wanting to take damage. And potentially killing your own units, depending on how the enemy reacts and stuff, is tragic. This is basically a deal 1 to all my stuff every time I attack. It's the opposite of Anivia every time I attack. Dealing, say, maximum of 5 to the enemy Nexus is good, right? Don't get me wrong, but if like the average is 3, it's not bad. It's just not good, and you only play this in a specific deck. So I have conflicted opinions on Vladimir. I think we'll just leave it at that. Oh, and also tough works really awkwardly with Vladimir. I heard people talking about it. Apparently, if one of your allies has tough and Vladimir's effect hits it, you don't do the damage to the Nexus because technically the ally did not take damage to proc the enemy Nexus damage part. So some weird stuff with tough going on with Vladimir. Legion General. Fantastic in certain decks. Fearsome. We went over that earlier. 5 mana 4/4. Grant me +1/+1 for each unit you've stunned or recalled this game. This card can be like a 5 mana 15/15 potentially. This card gets disgusting. Even if this card only is played after you stun 2 things, it's still a 5 mana 6/6 with Fearsome. That's respectable. That's good. This card is great. This card's phenomenal. Shunpo. I hate this card. It's basically a Relentless Pursuit and Mystic Shot baby. I don't know what you would want this for. It's 5 mana, which is pricey. You deal 2 to an enemy and then ready your attack. It's not bad, but I don't like it. I would rather just play either Caterina, who readies my attack, or have some removal. I don't want 2-in-1 most of the time. And it's enemy unit. You can't use the 2 damage on the Nexus. If you can use the 2 damage on the Nexus, hey, this becomes way better in my book. But I don't like Shunpo. Reckoning. 5 mana slow spell. If you have a 5+ power ally, kill all units with 4 or less power. The important thing is it kills your units with 4 or less power as well. So that severely guts this for me. If it was kill all enemies with 4 or less power, it'd be like absurdly strong. So I understand why that's not the case, but I don't see a reason to play this unless you're playing just big beefy stuff. And if you're playing big beefy stuff, the enemy really does. You really don't care if the enemy has 4 or less power stuff. So I don't like this card. It's bad in my opinion. Darius, the Dunk Master. 6 mana, 6/5 with Overwhelm. Good. If the enemy Nexus has 10 or less health, he levels up. That's it. He just needs to be half Nexus health. It becomes a 10/5. 10 damage Overwhelm on turn 6 is potentially game winning. It's disgusting. Darius is definitely solid. He has no drawback. Even as a 6/5 for 6 mana, he's not terrible. He's average as a 6 mana 6/5 with Overwhelm. But a 10 mana or a 6 mana 10/5 with Overwhelm is a different story. This card's good. No drawbacks. Just straight out good. Minotaur Reckoner, annoying to play against. First of all, 6 mana 6/6, decent stats. Start of round, stun the weakest enemy. This is the Frostbite card from Freljord, but the weakest instead of strongest, pretty much. Stun means that that unit can't do anything that turn. So if they're attacking, it's their turn to attack. The round goes to their turn. Their weakest enemy is just useless this turn. Pretty much, for the most part. Just straight up useless. And if they only have one unit, that unit can't do anything. Good luck. This card's fantastic. And super good. For a 6/6 as well, like with that effect, super powerful. Very, very good. Battering Ram. I thought this card looked super interesting. You could do some like weird, wacky damage it, give it buffs thing. When you attack, it gets 4 attack. So it's a 6 mana 0/12. It's a 6 mana 4/12 when you attack with it. Actually, it doesn't say this round. So this would be a 6 mana 0/12. You attack, it becomes a 6 mana 4/12. Then you attack again, it becomes a 6 mana 8/12, and just gets stronger and stronger from what I'm reading. This card's pretty good. I never saw anyone play this card, but it looks interesting, and it has Overwhelm. I'd like to give this card a try. November 14th, when the next preview patch comes, I'll definitely give this a try. I think it's pretty good, just by looking at it. Worst case scenario, it's a big tank. A big tank with 12 health. So, pretty good. Savage Reckoner, 7 mana 7/4. Pretty bad stats for 7 mana, but has Challenger and has Overwhelm. So this is a pretty much, I play this, I challenge your weakest thing, I deal you excessive damage. So in that case, it's good. I saw a few people play this. It does its job. Worst case scenario, you just beat the heck out of something that was annoying on the other team. So pretty good. Captain Ferran. Replace your hands with Decimates. And if we remember, Decimate is the 5 mana slow spell, do 4 to the enemy Nexus. So it's an 8 mana 8/8. Good. Overwhelm. Great. Replace your hands with Decimates. You're casting this if you're going to win. You don't play this if you're behind. Well, maybe you do. Because if your hand turns into Decimates, you can cast 2 Decimates a turn. So if you kind of put your enemy on a timer, which is I'm a cast this and deal 4 damage, and then 4 damage again. This is 8 damage a turn on a timer. But there's a little interaction with Decimate that I did not mention when we went over it, specifically for this part. If you play Captain Ferran and you have a Karma on the field, if you remember, Enlightened Karma casts spells twice. So this becomes a 5 mana deal 8. And you can cast 2 of them. So 5 mana deal 8 and then 5 mana deal 8 is 16 damage, along with Karma, who is a 5/4 when she's aligned with an 8/8. You're in a good spot. If they don't kill the Karma, they're just dead next turn without any healing. Decimate's very good when combined with Enlightened Karma. So that's what I have to say about that. This card's very good. Only play it when you're going for the win, though. If you turn your hand into Decimates and you're not in the spot to be doing that, you're going to lose. So, all in all, Noxus is just the flat-out aggression deck, or region. There's really no defensive options other than a few stuns and very few targeted removal. But I think the aggression outweighs the lack of defense. You're playing this as a aggro archetype, or some support for other decks such as the Freljord with the self-damaging, or Yasuo with the stuns. You can even just play super weird, big, aggro, Demacian, Noxious kind of stuff. All in all, I think this is a very, very good region. I think a few cards are slept on, like Caterina. Maybe Battering Ram. Battering Ram just seems nuts in my mind. And then the combo with Captain Ferran's Decimates with Enlightened Karma is potentially disgusting. So let me guys know what you guys think about the Noxious region. I personally did not play it very much. So if you guys knew anything that I did not, please let me know. Please comments, any suggestions, anything like that. It would actually help me out if you liked and subscribed, because I saw that one of my videos got like 5 more likes or something, and it almost doubled in views. So that'd be a good way to share the information for my videos if you think my information is good. So thank you very much, and I will see you guys tomorrow.